Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Listen carefully. People think silence is a weakness. That if you're not constantly speaking, constantly posting, constantly reacting, you're invisible. But let me tell you something, and I say this with every ounce of truth I've learned in my life. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power. There was a time in my own life when everything felt noisy. Fame, success, expectations, they don't come quietly. They scream in your ear. They knock on your door at midnight. They drag you out of peace and into performance. And when you're young, you fall for it. You think your voice has to be louder than your value. You start believing that to be seen, you have to be constantly heard. But with time, you understand something very few ever grasp. The most powerful man in the room is not the one talking. It's the one listening, the one watching, the one who's so secure within himself that he doesn't need to announce every move. I've lived it. I've walked into rooms where people wanted to prove themselves with noise, with ego, with dominance. And I've also seen that the person sitting quietly, fully present, grounded, that person controlled the entire energy of the space. Because silence isn't nothing. It's control. It's knowing who you are so deeply that you don't need to shout it. You see, when you're silent, your thoughts get sharper. Your instincts get louder. You begin to hear things that are drowned out by the noise. Your fears, your hopes, your truth. And when you face those things in silence, you start becoming unstoppable. Because now you're no longer reacting to the world. You're responding with intention. In silence, I found clarity that no amount of advice could give me. In silence, I've redefined my dreams. I've healed wounds. I've realized that peace is not in applause or in the spotlight. It's in knowing that you are enough, even when the world isn't watching. People often ask me, Shahrukh, how do you stay so composed when people say things about you, attack you, misunderstand you? And my answer is simple. I don't owe anyone a reaction. My silence is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's choosing my battles. It's saving my energy for the things that matter. Let them talk. Let them assume. While they're busy guessing, I'm busy growing. You don't have to clap back. You don't have to prove them wrong with your words. Prove them wrong with your existence, with your rise, with your peace. Because the world doesn't respect noise anymore. It respects energy. And the strongest energy is stillness. When you walk into a room and you're calm, confident, silent, trust me, people feel it. You don't need to tell them who you are. They'll feel it in your silence. Silence is also where your real power wakes up. When you stop explaining yourself, you start understanding yourself. You start discovering what you truly want, not what the world told you to want. You stop chasing approval and start chasing alignment with your soul, your path, your truth. And that's when you become dangerous, not to others, but to your old self. The one who needed validation, the one who feared judgment, the one who lived to impress. In silence, that version of you dies and a new one is born. One who is sure, one who is present, one who is absolutely in charge of his life. You don't become powerful by being loud. You become powerful by being intentional. By knowing when to speak and when to just smile, nod and walk away. That's grace. That's real class. That's the kind of strength no one can fake. Silence also teaches you patience. It teaches you timing. Not every move has to be announced. Not every plan needs to be shared. When you're silent, you're building. You're creating, you're becoming. And the world, it will see it when it's time. Let your results be your roar. Let your actions be your voice. And trust me, when you rise in silence, that rise is unshakable. Because it wasn't built on approval, it wasn't built on noise. It was built on self-awareness, self-respect, and the quiet discipline of knowing your worth. So, my friend, if you're in a phase of your life right now where you feel like no one's noticing your efforts, like you're working in the dark, like you're not getting the recognition, good. Stay there. That's your power zone. That's where real greatness is forged. Because when you focus on yourself and you stay silent, everything starts to fall into place. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you've changed. You've grown, you've stopped chasing and started attracting. That's the magic of silence. Never mistake stillness for stagnation. The most explosive transformations happen in quiet. So don't be afraid to go inward. Don't be afraid to be misunderstood. Don't be afraid to walk away without explanation. Let them wonder. Let them guess. You just keep building. Because in this world full of noise, the one who masters silence, he owns himself. And when you own yourself, you own your destiny. There's something they don't tell you about success, about real transformation. It doesn't happen when the spotlight is on. It doesn't happen when the applause is loud. It happens in silence. In the quiet hours when nobody is watching, when no one is cheering, when it's just you and the fight inside your own mind. People think growth looks glamorous. They imagine it comes with big announcements, with constant validation, with visible progress. But the truth is, the loudest growth doesn't make a sound. It's invisible. It's silent. It happens when you're alone, when you're doubting yourself, when you're facing your own limitations and choosing to rise anyway. I've lived that silence. I've walked through it. I've been in rooms full of noise and still felt completely alone. And I've also been completely alone in a room and felt the most powerful I've ever been, because I was transforming, not for the world but for myself. When I started, there was no guarantee, no promise of success, no blueprint, just belief. And that belief didn't come from outside. It was carved out in those long nights, in the quiet moments of rejection, in the stillness of self-doubt. That's where the real magic happens, not when you're on the stage, but when you're behind the curtain, bleeding, building and refusing to quit. You see, there's something sacred about working in silence. It's not about hiding, it's about focusing. When you're not trying to impress, when you're not trying to prove anything, that's when you give yourself the space to evolve, to fall and rise without anyone's judgment, to experiment, to fail in peace, to fail with dignity. People ask me all the time, how do I grow? How do I get better? How do I become something more? And I tell them, go quiet, not because you're retreating, but because you're preparing. Because when you stop announcing your moves and start studying your path, you become dangerous. You become focused. You start making decisions not based on noise, but on clarity. And clarity is a gift silence gives you. It's in those still moments that your truth rises to the surface. The real you shows up when you're not performing, when you're not filtered through society's lens, when it's just you, raw, vulnerable, and honest. That's where you find out what you're really made of. You don't become strong by showing the world your best moments. You become strong by surviving your worst quietly. You become strong when you choose discipline over distraction, purpose over popularity, vision over validation. And all of that happens when no one is looking. Look around. Everyone's rushing to be seen, to be heard, to be validated. But very few are willing to disappear for a while, to work in the shadows, to master their craft, to build silently. And yet, those are the people who come back unrecognizable. Not because they changed everything around them, but because they changed everything within them. That's how I've survived this journey. That's how I've grown. I didn't announce every step. I didn't broadcast every struggle. I lived it. I felt it. I grew through it. And when I showed up, I let the work speak. The performance, the presence, the energy. Because the truth is, you don't have to tell people you've grown. They'll feel it the moment you enter the room. Let them wonder where you've been. Let them ask what happened to you. Let your silence spark their curiosity. Because when you evolve in private, you return with power, not noise. Power. You have to give yourself permission to disappear for a while, not because you're broken, but because you're building. And growth, real growth, requires isolation, it requires space, it requires stillness. You don't plant a seed and expect it to bloom overnight in front of an audience. You bury it in the dark, water it consistently, and trust the process. That's how life works. That's how greatness is born. I know it's not easy. I know silence can feel scary. It can feel lonely. But that loneliness is not your enemy. It's your teacher. It's preparing you. It's stripping away the noise so you can finally hear what you've been ignoring for years. Yourself. And when you finally hear yourself, when you stop listening to the world and start listening to yourself, something shifts. You become centered, clear, intentional. And that's when your growth accelerates, not just professionally, but personally, spiritually, emotionally. So if you're going through a silent phase right now, if life feels quiet, if you feel disconnected, if you feel like you're in the background while everyone else shines, don't worry. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're in the phase that matters the most, the phase where your roots are growing deeper, where your foundation is strengthening, where you're becoming the version of yourself that no one saw coming. Don't rush the process. Don't interrupt the silence. Don't try to explain it to people who won't understand. Let them talk. Let them shine for now. Your time is coming, and when it does, the world won't know what hit it. Because you didn't waste your silence, you used it, you respected it, you let it mold you into something real. And trust me, real always rises. One of the hardest things in life is learning to focus on yourself in a world that constantly demands your attention. A world that pulls you in 100 different directions, that tells you who you should be, what you should want, how you should act, what success should look like. It's chaos, noise everywhere, and if you're not careful, that noise will drown you. I've lived through that noise. I've heard the opinions, the judgments, the expectations. People have told me how to walk, how to speak, how to feel, what kind of roles to accept, how to be a star, how to be a man. And for a while I listened. I thought maybe they were right. Maybe I had to fit into their version of success to truly matter. But the more I tried to please the world, the more I lost pieces of myself. You see, when your eyes are always on others, comparing, competing, craving validation, you forget who you are. You start living for the applause, for the approval, for the likes, the comments, the attention. And the moment that attention fades, you start to question your own worth. But let me tell you something I've learned. The real game changes the moment you shift your focus inward. When you stop trying to prove anything to anyone and start becoming everything for yourself. You don't need the world's permission to grow. You don't need their acceptance to evolve. And you definitely don't need their constant attention to validate your journey. What you need is focus. Pure, undistracted focus on your own path. Because while you're busy looking left and right, someone else is looking straight ahead, building, grinding, becoming. They're not concerned with who's watching. They're concerned with who they're becoming. And that's the secret. You become unstoppable the moment you start living for you. When you stop explaining, when you stop defending, when you stop shrinking yourself to fit into other people's boxes. That's when your life starts expanding. That's when you start attracting clarity, peace, and power. Not because the world changes, but because you've changed. And I know it's not easy. I know how tempting it is to keep up with the noise, to respond to criticism, to clap back at people who doubt you. But what you have to understand is every second you spend focused on them is a second stolen from your own growth. Every argument you dive into, every insult you react to, every time you try to defend your character to people who already have their minds made up, you lose energy, you lose time, you lose momentum. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to give my power to anyone who doesn't deserve it. You don't need to broadcast your grind. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to post every move, defend every decision, or win every opinion. What you need is to keep showing up for yourself, consistently, fiercely, silently if you must, but show up. Because when you start pouring into yourself, everything changes. Your mindset changes, your energy shifts. The things that used to distract you, they start to look small. The people who used to drain you start to feel distant, not because you're arrogant, but because you've grown. Because your focus is no longer scattered, it's rooted, anchored, unshakable, and suddenly life begins to align. Opportunities find you, peace surrounds you, confidence becomes your default setting, not because you shouted louder, but because you tuned out the noise. You stopped trying to be everywhere, and you became fully present in your own lane. There is power in choosing yourself. There is strength in silence. There is focus in detachment. When you learn to love your own company, when you learn to sit in silence and hear your own voice, that's when your purpose begins to speak. That's when your real hunger wakes up. Don't waste it on distractions. Don't spend your life proving your worth to people who wouldn't understand your depth even if you explained it 1,000 times. Let them say what they want. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand. You stay locked in, you stay dangerous in your focus, because this world doesn't reward noise, it rewards results, it rewards consistency. It rewards those who don't just dream but do, who don't just talk but build, who don't just react but create. And yes, the road gets lonely, the silence gets loud, but that's the cost of real evolution. That's the price of becoming someone powerful. You walk alone for a while, but when you emerge, you don't come back the same. So stop watching their stories and start writing your own. Stop measuring your pace with theirs. This is your life, not a race. The only competition you have is the version of you that stayed distracted, and every day you choose focus over noise, discipline over drama, peace over performance. You win. Quietly but powerfully. Because the world doesn't need a louder you. It needs a focused you, a present you, a version of you so deeply in tune with your purpose that nothing, and I mean nothing, can pull you off track. Let the world chase the noise. You chase mastery. People talk a lot about ambition, about dreams, about what they want to become, but very few talk about what they're willing to do consistently, without applause, without shortcuts, without comfort, every single day to become that person. And that's where the real difference lies. Because it's not talent that wins. It's not even passion that carries you to the top, it's discipline. Ruthless, relentless, non-negotiable discipline. You can have all the potential in the world, but if you don't have the will to wake up every day and outwork your old self, it means nothing. You can have the best ideas, but if you don't have the commitment to follow through, they stay locked inside you. And I say this because I've been there. I've seen what happens when dreams meet distraction, when desire meets delay, when people say they want greatness, but choose comfort instead. Discipline is the line that separates the talkers from the doers, the dreamers from the achievers, the hopeful from the unstoppable. It's what allows you to keep showing up even when you're tired, even when the motivation disappears, even when nobody's watching. And believe me, there are going to be days where the world doesn't care, where no one claps, where your progress feels invisible. That's when most people quit. That's when most people say, maybe it's not meant for me. But I'm telling you, those are the moments where champions are made. In the silence, in the repetition, in the small, unseen choices that look like nothing to the world, but mean everything to your future. I didn't get here by chance. I didn't wake up one day and suddenly have everything I ever wanted. I bled for it. I struggled for it. I stayed up when everyone else was sleeping. I practiced when no one was watching. I said no to things that looked good but weren't good for my vision. That's what discipline looks like. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting, but it's powerful. You want to change your life? Start by changing your habits. Start by becoming the kind of person who doesn't negotiate with their goals. The kind of person who doesn't need to be in the mood to take action. Who doesn't rely on motivation. Because let me tell you, motivation is fleeting. It's emotional. It comes and goes. But discipline, that's your anchor. That's what holds you steady in the middle of chaos. People look at my success and they think it was easy. They see the movies, the fame, the awards, but they don't see the mornings I didn't want to get out of bed. They don't see the sacrifices, the rehearsals, the rejections, the self-doubt. They don't see the years where I had to be my own source of strength, but I kept going. Because I made a decision I would never let how I feel dictate what I do. That's discipline. And once you build that relationship with yourself, once you become the kind of person who can trust themselves to show up, no matter what, you become unstoppable. You don't need to tell anyone what you're doing. Your results will speak. Your presence will speak. The way you move, the way you carry yourself, the things you achieve, that becomes your voice. And don't get me wrong, discipline is not about perfection. It's not about being rigid or punishing yourself. It's about alignment. It's about making choices that serve the future you, not the current craving. It's about becoming a person of integrity, a person who follows through, a person whose actions reflect their words. Because the world is full of noise. Everyone is talking. Everyone is promising. Everyone is performing. But when you walk in with real discipline, you don't need to say a word. People feel it. They respect it. Because they know how rare it is. So when you find yourself tempted to skip the hard work, to chase distractions, to wait for the perfect moment, remind yourself that every excuse is costing you something. Every compromise is either building your future or breaking it. Every time you choose comfort, you're delaying your greatness. You don't rise when it's easy. You rise when it's hard and you show up anyway. That's the kind of force you need to become. Someone so grounded in discipline that no challenge can shake you, no delay can stop you, no rejection can defeat you. Because success doesn't belong to the loudest. It doesn't belong to the flashiest. It belongs to the most consistent, the most focused. The ones who don't just want it, but work for it relentlessly, without needing to be seen, without needing to be praised. And trust me, the discipline you build today, in silence, in solitude, in struggle, will echo in your future so loudly that the world will have no choice but to pay attention. Let your results make the noise. Let your work be the message. Let your success be the volume they can't ignore. Until then, stay disciplined, stay committed, stay dangerous. There's a strange power in silence, and most people don't understand it. We live in a time where everyone is trying to be heard, where people believe that the louder you speak, the more respect you get, the more you talk, the more important you are. But I've learned the opposite. Real power doesn't need to announce itself. Real energy doesn't chase attention, it pulls it. You know who really moves the world? The ones who walk into a room and don't have to say a word, yet their presence says everything. There's a gravity in their stillness, a focus in their silence. They don't need to impress because they've become too aligned to seek validation. That's the kind of vibe you need to build. Not loud, not flashy, but powerful, intentional, rooted. People ask me, how do you handle criticism? How do you respond to rumors? Don't you want to speak your truth? And I smile. Because what they don't understand is, I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to respond. I don't need to fight every battle with words. Because silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's control. It's the highest form of self-mastery. When you're truly focused on building something real, something meaningful, you realize that your energy is too expensive to waste on noise, on opinions, on people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Let them talk. Let them assume you. Stay silent and move different. Move with purpose, move with peace. See, when you start valuing your energy, you stop giving it away so easily. You stop reacting to everything, you stop explaining your every move. And something incredible happens. You become magnetic. People are drawn to your calm, to your confidence, to your clarity. Because in a world full of chaos, your stillness becomes rare. It's your silence that tells people you're not available for drama, that your mind is not a playground for their opinions, that your spirit is not up for debate. It's your silence that shows them you've outgrown the need to be seen to feel valuable. You're not chasing the spotlight anymore. You've become the fire that lights your own path. And that's when your vibe shifts. That's when your energy becomes undeniable. When you stop talking about what you're going to do and you just start doing it quietly, relentlessly, without hype, without announcements, just action, just movement, just progress. I remember when I started out in this industry, there was so much noise. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had advice. Everyone wanted to tell me who to be and how to be it. And in the beginning, I listened, I tried to fit in. I tried to be who they wanted. But it never felt right. It never felt true. Because my power was never in becoming another version of someone else. My power was in becoming fully, unapologetically, silently me. And once I discovered that, once I stopped explaining, defending, performing, everything started falling into place. Not because I shouted louder, but because I stood firmer. Because my silence wasn't empty. It was full of intention. It was full of growth. It was full of self-belief. You don't attract peace by making noise. You attract peace by becoming it. You don't attract respect by demanding it. You attract respect by embodying it. And that's what silence teaches you. It teaches you to stop chasing and start radiating. You become the person who doesn't beg for attention because you've become the source of value. People start noticing your moves, not your words. They start respecting your process, even if they don't understand it, because you're doing something rare. You're building something sacred yourself. And let me tell you this, not everyone will get it. Some people will be uncomfortable with your silence. They'll mistake it for arrogance, for distance, for weakness. Let them. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. You don't owe the world your noise. You owe yourself your peace. I've realized something beautiful. When you stop speaking just to be heard, and you start living in alignment with your values, your goals, your spirit, your silence becomes the loudest thing in the room. It speaks of self-trust. It speaks of resilience. It speaks of someone who no longer needs the world to confirm their worth. And in that space, in that quiet, powerful space, life begins to respond. Opportunities begin to find you. The right people begin to notice you. Not because you're begging for it, but because your energy has become a frequency too powerful to ignore. So build that vibe, that unshakable, unbothered, deeply present energy. The kind of vibe that doesn't ask for attention but commands it. The kind that doesn't speak often, but when it does, every word matters. The kind that doesn't chase the world but creates a world so rich, so full, so magnetic the world finds its way to you. In silence, you don't disappear, you evolve. You become the calm in the storm. You become the mystery that sparks curiosity. You become the force that doesn't shout but shapes everything around it. And that, my friend, is real power. Not in how loud your voice is, but in how strong your silence becomes. You know what's really powerful? Quiet growth. That silent evolution no one sees coming. When you're changing, when you're healing, when you're learning to move differently, you don't need to post about it, prove it, or scream it to the world. Because true growth doesn't beg for attention. It creates it. I've lived long enough to understand that when you're truly leveling up, the first thing you let go of is the need to be seen. You stop needing the applause. You stop needing validation. You stop telling people how hard you're working and just start becoming the result. And that transition from proving to becoming, that's where the magic is. People always want to tell the world they're evolving. I'm doing better. I've changed. I'm focused now. But you know what's more powerful than saying it? Living it. Walking into a room and letting your energy say what your words never could. That's real transformation. When people look at you and say, there's something different about you, and all you do is smile. Because they can feel it, they can sense it. Growth becomes a presence, a frequency, a force. I didn't learn this from books. I didn't read it in a script. I learned it in silence, in pain, in failure. I learned it when I was breaking behind the scenes and still showing up. I learned it when I was reinventing myself quietly while the world thought I had plateaued. You see, people always think they know your story because they knew who you were. But when you grow silently, you get the rarest gift, the element of surprise. You don't need to explain your glow up. You don't need to justify your peace. Let them see it when they least expect it. Let them feel the shift in your energy. Let them notice how you don't react the way you used to. How you're not available for nonsense anymore. How your silence has become your shield, your clarity, your edge. There's a unique power in not being the same person you were 6 months ago and telling no one. Not because you're hiding, but because you're focused. Because you know that real change doesn't happen with declarations, it happens with decisions. Quiet, consistent, sometimes painful decisions that slowly reshape everything. You start eating better, thinking sharper, moving slower but with more precision. You stop chasing people, chasing trends, chasing noise. And you realize for the first time maybe that peace isn't found in the world seeing your growth, it's found in you feeling it and standing tall in it without a word. I've had phases in my life where people doubted me, where they thought they'd seen my best, where they expected me to fade away. And in those moments, I could have gone out and defended myself, screamed my intentions, made noise just to stay relevant. But I didn't, because I've learned that the best revenge is evolution, the best response is reinvention, and the best announcement is no announcement at all. Let your success whisper. Let your healing be felt, not flaunted. Let your boundaries speak louder than your explanations. Let your glow show up when they're least prepared for it. Because if you're really doing the work, if you're really focused on evolving, you won't have time to announce it. You'll be too busy becoming it. It's tempting, I know, to want recognition while you're transforming, to want someone to notice how hard you're trying. But don't let that hunger for external approval rob you of your internal process. Growth is sacred, it's personal, it's messy and quiet and beautiful. Don't dilute it by needing to prove it. You don't need to say, I'm better now. Just be better. You don't need to post, I'm healed. Just live like it. You don't need to tell them, I've changed. Just let your absence from the things that once broke you do all the talking. And people will notice. Oh, they'll notice. The ones who underestimated you, they'll feel the gap. The ones who took you for granted, they'll sense your shift. The ones who thought you were done, they'll watch you rise with a new fire in your eyes and wonder how they missed the warning signs. But there are no signs, because growth isn't a performance. It's not loud. It's not for show. It's real. It's rooted. It's felt in how you walk, how you speak, how you no longer shrink to fit into places that once tolerated you but never celebrated you. And that kind of growth, that's not seasonal. That's permanent. That's not a phase. It's a rebirth. So stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop narrating your evolution to people who aren't even ready to receive it. Let your new mindset do the talking. Let your decisions reflect your growth. Let your silence be the statement that echoes longer than any caption or conversation ever could. You're not here to convince, you're here to evolve, to elevate, to arrive silently at the places they said you'd never reach and own them with quiet confidence. That's the vibe now. That's the energy you build when you grow for real.